It started with a single whistle, a sound heard 1,000 times on football pitches across the world. But on that day, in a crucial match between Aston Villa and Manchester United, that whistle may have echoed louder and costlier than any before. How can a split-second decision by a referee alter the fate of an entire football club? And what happens when that decision costs not just victory, but potentially tens of millions of pounds, a place among Europe's elite, and the dreams of a generation? Tonight, we break down the economics, the controversy, and the human story behind a decision that has sent shockwaves through global football. How did an experienced team like Aston Villa find themselves on the wrong side of a rulebook, a referee's instinct, and a financial cliff edge? And in an era of technology, where VAR and instant replays are supposed to guarantee fairness, how can such an error still decide everything? By the end of this video, you'll see why this is about far more than a football match. You'll see how technology, money, and human error are colliding in the modern game, and why what happened to Aston Villa could change football as we know it. Let's rewind a bit. Aston Villa, a club with history, ambition, and a fiercely loyal following. For the past few years, they've been a story of steady rise, surviving relegation, rebuilding, and then, under the steady leadership of Unai Emery, pushing for something bigger. This season, they weren't just fighting for pride. They were on the cusp of achieving what was, until recently, barely imaginable, qualifying for the UEFA Champions League. Champions League isn't just about glory, it's a financial lifeline. For a club like Aston Villa, it means TV revenues, global exposure, bigger deals, and the funds to compete with Europe's richest teams. Kieran Maguire, a football finance expert, says bluntly, Champions League qualification is transformative for clubs like Aston Villa, providing a financial springboard for sustained growth and investment. The stakes couldn't have been higher. A single win, a single goal, could decide the difference between 50 million and 70 million in extra revenue next season. That's the kind of money that pays for new signings, secures key players, and gets fans dreaming of famous European nights. But football, for all its precision and planning, still leaves room for chaos and sometimes for injustice. The fateful match was against Manchester United, a formidable opponent, but Villa were ready for the challenge. Early on, things started to unravel. Goalkeeper Emi Martinez was shown a red card. Down to 10 men, the odds looked grim, but Villa didn't give up. They fought back, reorganized, and in the 73rd minute, Morgan Rogers found the net after a scramble in the box. The stadium erupted. For a split second, belief was alive. Champions League football was within touching distance. Then, confusion. Referee Thomas Bramall blew his whistle just before the ball hit the back of the net, ruling, on the spot, that Manchester United goalkeeper Altay Bayındır had sufficient control of the ball when Rogers pounced. With the whistle blown before the goal, VAR was powerless. Under the current protocol, video officials couldn't intervene or overturn what happened after the whistle. Unai Emery, Villa's manager, was left stunned. It was a big mistake, he said after the match, the disappointment clear in his voice. But the consequences were even bigger. Because that moment, a single whistle, a decision made in less than a second, meant the goal didn't count. Villa lost the match, and with it, their ticket to the Champions League. Immediately, a storm erupted. Pundits and fans alike were incredulous. Alan Shearer, the BBC's legendary pundit, didn't mince words. It's a terrible decision. The referee has made a mistake and it should have been a goal. Even Mark Clattenburg, himself a former top-level referee, was torn. The referee's decision was technically correct based on current protocols, but the application lacked common sense, highlighting a need for protocol review. The burning question: with so much technology available, how could such a pivotal mistake still happen? Was it just misfortune, or does it signal something deeper broken in the system? To understand why a whistle can have such vast consequences, let's step back and look at how football officiating has evolved. In the past decade, the global game has poured millions into high-tech solutions: semi-automated offsides, advanced cameras, and of course, the introduction of Video Assistant Referee, or VAR. The dream: combine the best of human judgment with technological accuracy so that crucial moments are fair and obvious errors can be corrected in real time. But there's a catch. According to IFAB, the guardians of football's rules, VAR can only intervene in certain situations. A goal can be reviewed for offside, handball, or foul play, but only if the referee hasn't already stopped play with a whistle. If the referee blows too early and play is dead before the goal, VAR is powerless to resurrect it. It's a loophole born out of respect for the referee's authority on the pitch, but it's a flaw that, as we saw, has catastrophic consequences when judgment goes wrong. For Aston Villa, the system failed. The whole club is left to pick up the pieces. They've filed a formal complaint with the PGMOL, the organization responsible for selecting and evaluating Premier League referees, alleging that Bramall's lack of big match experience contributed to the error. Was it just inexperience or a systemic weakness? That's the big debate raging in English football right now. But there's more at stake than just sporting pride or a trophyless season. The financial impact is massive. Without Champions League money, analysts estimate Villa now faces a shortfall of up to £70 million. That's not just an accounting line. It could force the club to sell star players, delay much-needed investments, or even impact their ability to comply with the Premier League's strict financial fair play regulations. As Gabriele Marcotti of ESPN puts it, the Villa incident underscores the ongoing tension between the letter of the law and the spirit of the game, raising questions about VAR's effectiveness. Next season, Villa will play in the Europa League. It's an achievement, but it's not the bonanza the Champions League offers. For fans and players, there's pride, but also a lingering sense of injustice, of what might have been. Unai Emery, ever the professional, tried to downplay the controversy. We are in Europe. Last year the Conference League, this year the Champions League, next year the Europa League. To be in Europe is important. Being 3 years in a row in Europe is something. We are showing our consistency. But there's no masking the disappointment. The Premier League, meanwhile, finds itself under fire. Is referee selection based too much on rotation, not enough on experience? Should critical matches be assigned to the very best officials, especially when the stakes are so high? PGMOL's chief, Howard Webb, insists that we continuously assess refereeing performance and selection criteria to ensure the highest standards of officiating in the Premier League. Yet to many, that assurance rings hollow in the wake of Villa's heartbreak. As the dust begins to settle, a bigger question emerges. Is this a one-off mistake, or does it expose a gap in the entire system? A gap where the collision of human error and rigid protocol leaves clubs, fans, and fortunes hanging in the balance. And if Aston Villa, themselves a club with resources and global attention, can be undone by a single, unreviewable whistle, what hope do smaller clubs have when the stakes are just as high for them? Behind closed doors, the lawmakers of football are under pressure. IFAB is reportedly reviewing whether the early whistle protocol should be changed, allowing VAR a wider scope to intervene, even after a referee prematurely stops play. There's talk of introducing semi-automated technology for more situations, and tightening up how referees are selected for crunch matches. But change in football is slow, and uncertainty remains. For every advocate of more technology, there's a purist who fears the loss of the human element. For every club harmed by a mistake, there's another who quietly benefits from one. In the boardrooms at Villa Park, decisions are being weighed. Should Aston Villa pursue legal action or push for rule changes that could prevent future heartbreak? Should they radically adjust their transfer policy, plan for financial constraints, or gamble on the next generation of youth talent? On social media, the debate rages on. Was this just one bad call, or a symptom of deeper flaws in the game's governance? If the game's richest leagues, with all their resources, can't get it right, what hope is there for the sport globally? Which brings us to the crossroads Aston Villa and the football world now face. Will this incident spur real reform, modernize the rules, and save other clubs from a similar fate? Or will the memory of one fateful whistle fade, buried under a new season's headlines, leaving the game's old problems unsolved? The next chapter in this saga is about to unfold. How will Aston Villa and the football authorities respond? And what could it mean for the future of football's most lucrative and watched competitions? Stay tuned. But where does football go from here? This isn't just about Aston Villa or a single referee's error. The reverberations from this controversy are being felt all the way up to the boardrooms of FIFA and the International Football Association Board, the guardians of the game's rules. Right now, the air is thick with questions and uncertainty. What happens next could redefine the future of English football, and maybe the very soul of the sport. Let's look ahead. In the short term, Aston Villa are licking their wounds, denied not just a shot at glory, but £70 million in Champions League riches. This is cash that could have transformed the club, funding new signings, bulking up their academy, or even helping them break up the Premier League's established elite. Instead, Villa now face tough financial decisions. Football finance expert Kieran Maguire put it bluntly, missing out on the Champions League can force clubs to sell key players or delay much-needed investments. It's not just prestige, it's survival in the modern game. And it's not just Villa under the microscope. Every club in England is watching this saga unfold. The Premier League is on edge, with smaller teams fearing that a similar officiating blunder could jeopardize their own dreams. For clubs chasing European football, every goal, every decision can be worth a fortune, and the current rules mean that a single mistake can still swing the fate of entire seasons. On the administrative battlefield, the pressure is building. Villa's formal complaint to PGMOL, the body that oversees referees, has sparked a wave of scrutiny. Questions are being asked about referee experience, the selection process for high-stakes matches, and the limits of VAR. Even the IFAB, the body that writes football's laws, has announced a special review of the so-called early whistle protocol. For the first time in years, real change feels possible. What could that change look like? One scenario: IFAB may alter the laws of the game to allow VAR to intervene even after a premature whistle, especially for situations where a clear and obvious error has taken place. Technology could step further into the spotlight, with automated offside systems and new sensors coming into play. But with every proposed solution comes new questions. Will more technology make the game fairer, or simply more complicated? Will it sap the spontaneity and drama we love? Of course, there are risks to reform too. The more VAR is allowed to scrutinize, the more stoppages, confusion, and frustration there might be. Fans already complain that matches can be interrupted for minutes at a time, sapping the natural flow. And even the best technology is only as strong as the humans interpreting it. At some point, we have to remember that football is played and judged by people, said Gabriele Marcotti, ESPN analyst. Mistakes will happen, but the goal should be to minimize the truly game-defining ones. Still, the opportunity for progress is huge. This controversy has united clubs, managers, and fans in a rare moment of consensus. The system is not working as it should. Even PGMOL chief Howard Webb has admitted publicly that referee performance and selection standards need a hard look. If meaningful reforms come, they could protect not just Aston Villa, but every ambitious club outside the traditional powers. Stricter referee selection for high-stakes games could prevent rookie officials from being thrown into the deep end. Smarter VAR protocols might ensure that the spirit of the game is respected, not just the letter of the law. And greater transparency from football's authorities could help restore fans' battered trust. But here's the twist. History warns us to be cautious. English football has a long tradition of promising reform after high-profile blunders, only to see inertia win out once the headlines fade. Remember the infamous disallowed goal for Frank Lampard in the 2010 World Cup? That moment led to the introduction of goal line technology, but only after years of debate and missed opportunities. Is this time really different? From what we're seeing, public outcry, club lobbying, IFAB's unusual willingness to review procedures, there's good reason to believe momentum is building. Villa's vocal protest isn't just self-interest, it's become a rallying cry. Even rival fans, usually quick to gloat, have taken to social media to demand change. Alan Shearer summed up the mood on the BBC. It's a terrible decision. If this doesn't spark a rethink, I don't know what will. Now let's shift gears. What does all of this actually mean for you? The fan, the casual viewer, maybe even the Sunday League player or aspiring referee watching right now? It's easy to roll your eyes and think, just another football scandal, just more VAR drama. But there are real lessons here, far beyond the millions lost or the headlines burned. First, this is a powerful reminder that even at the highest level, systems are only as good as the people who run them. Football thrives on drama, but we trust in its outcomes because we believe, ultimately, in its fairness. When that trust is shaken, the whole sport suffers. So, never underestimate the importance of holding systems to account, whether it's in football, business, or your own community. Demand transparency, demand competence, and never accept "that's just how it is" as an answer. Second, this saga is about resilience. Aston Villa's manager Unai Emery could have thrown his players under the bus or launched a full-blown attack on the officials. Instead, he acknowledged the mistake, but focused on what his team could control: performance, attitude, and consistency. "We lost the opportunity, but we didn't deserve more," he admitted. That's not just sportsmanship, that's leadership. In life, as in football, we can't always choose the breaks we get, but we can choose our response. Sometimes, setbacks are the springboard for future progress. If you're a footballer at any level, or even just someone following your passion, Villa's story is a lesson in persistence. They fell short, yes, but they're still in Europe, building steadily, refusing to let one cruel twist define them. For fans, this is a chance to channel frustration into something positive, demanding better from the institutions that run the game you love. Your voice, on social media, at the stadium, at the pub, matters more than you think. The fan revolts over the European Super League proved this. Real change starts with pressure from below. For the next generation, kids growing up dreaming of Champions League nights or even becoming referees, the lesson is just as stark. The rules of any game matter. So do the people who enforce them. If you want to change the world of football, don't just dream of scoring goals. Imagine being the one who makes the right call under pressure. The sport needs courageous officials just as much as it needs talented players. So, will this controversy finally force real reform in football's rules and technology, or will history repeat itself? If the response so far is anything to go by, the answer leans toward optimism, but caution. The wheels of football bureaucracy turn slowly. Meetings will be held, protocols reviewed, and statements issued. But what's different this time is the scale of the backlash and the clarity of the problem. When one referee's mistake can cost a club tens of millions and close off a path to greatness, no one can shrug and move on. We may soon see the IFAB write a new rule to give VAR more power in goal-related situations, even when a whistle has already blown. The Premier League could introduce clearer requirements for referee experience in high-profile matches. Clubs might even band together to push for a seat at the table when rule changes are discussed. And yes, the technology itself will keep evolving. Expect talks of artificial intelligence and semi-automated decision-making to get louder in the coming months. But never forget, football's magic isn't in flawless technology or perfect referees. It's that combination of skill, chance, and raw emotion, a spectacle where glory and heartbreak are often separated by a heartbeat. Fixing the rules matters, but so does preserving the soul of the game. The challenge now is to strike the right balance, ensuring that the winner is decided by talent, not by technicalities or avoidable errors. Before we wrap up, here's something few fans know. During the IFAB's last Rules Summit, several top European clubs quietly lobbied for the use of artificial intelligence and real-time decision support for referees, a technology already being piloted, in secret, at elite youth tournaments in Germany. Could the future ref be a human, advised by an AI assistant? The groundwork is being laid right now behind closed doors. So as we wait for the next match, the next decision, and the next twist in football's long-running debate with technology, ask yourself, what makes you trust the final whistle? The rules, the referee, or the game itself? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Should VAR have more power, or is it time to give the human element more respect? If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more big